Hi, in this episode we're going to show you how we service our Lewmar winches. I'm just going to go and get the tools out and then we'll get started. Okay, so the winch we're going to service today is the Lewmar 50. We've got two of these on board, and we've also got two Lewmar 46s, and we've also got an electric 46 at the back of the boat. They're all very much the same. There's a couple of extra bits in these bigger ones, but it's all the same anyway, but you'll see. So I'll just show you the tools what we're going to be using. So before we start the job, the tools what we're going to need are a couple of trays to put your bits in. We've already got some petrol in there which we're going to use as a cleaning agent, solvent. We've got grease for when we reassemble it, some gloves. The only gloves we've got are latex ones, and these tend to dissolve with petrol, so I've got a few pairs of them. A small pair of pliers, screwdriver and a stiff toothbrush. Kitchen roll for wiping up, and don't forget to protect your table. Right, so to dismantle it is quite simple. The only thing you've got to be aware of is that inside here, when I lift this off, there's two big bearings and they might fall out there if you're not careful, so just be aware of it. So to start with, we turn this plastic top notch. Now you'll notice there's two little grooves in there. When you put this back together, you only turn them hand tight. The grooves are there if you over tightened it, so you can just put a screwdriver into that and push it. Mine are hand tight, so all we do, we screw this off, don't drop it. Now on there's a little rubber seal, make sure you don't damage that. That goes in the tray. Next thing is this little thing. Just remember which way that's pointing to, because you can put it in different positions. The next thing we've got on here is there's two little lugs, and this is where you need your pliers. Just give these a little tug, keep hold of them, because if you lose those, you're stuck. And then there's one on the other side. They're only held in with friction. Basically what that does, it holds this in. So once that's out, you can put your finger in there and pull this out. So the next thing to do is lift this off. Now you've just got to be careful. As I said, there's some bearings in here, they are sealed, but what we don't want is them dropping down onto the side of the boat and into the sea. So we'll lift it up. The bearings are there, so we're okay. That comes off in one piece. So the next thing, we'll just take the bearings off. There's two of these, just a sealed, I can't remember what the proper name of it is, but it's a sealed bearing. Then we've got a plastic spacer, another bearing, and then we've got this little plastic slider. Okay, so what we're left with now is the cogs on this side and the cogs on the other side. We need to pull this out, pull that out. To do that, we've got a pin here and we've got a pin on this side. And basically all you do is get a screwdriver under there. Just have to give it a little wiggle. And that pulls out in one. Once that's out, we can pull the gears out. Now keep your fingers together on this. In the bottom, there's a little plastic washer that goes on there. So make sure you don't lose that, because that's got to sit back on there when you put it back together. But more importantly, inside here, there are bearings. And I can see already that this one has broke. So that's going to have to be a replacement. That one looks like it's cracked as well. And and we've finally got a third one.
You need the document,
which is it. Once those three are out, this will also come out, and you've got these little clips. They're what make the clicking sound when you're doing it, and you can see there they're quite slow at coming out. Once we've sorted that, this will be a lot quicker. So that's the first gear out, and then we do exactly the same on the other side. Same again, screwdriver under there, pull this out. And it will be exactly the same. And notice that this has got the big cog to the top. And again, under there, we've got another washer. This is exactly the same. This will pull apart. This will pull apart again. We've got the two cams, and inside we've got the removable bearings, which we'll take out in a minute because I don't want to mix them up with the other two. So that all goes into the tray, and now we're ready to clean. So this is the bearing what's broken. As you can see, the plastic has snapped and the needles are going to come out, so that's got to be a replacement for that one. That's also got a crack in it, so we're going to need a new set of bearings for this. That one seems to be okay. Now on the other side, let's have a look at these. As you can see, this side the bearings are a little bit bigger, so you can't mix them up when you put them back together. That one looks okay. Right, so we'll clean what we've got. Okay, so what we do now, tube push out, and we'll start on the small one. Basically, we take it apart. Put all the little bits in there for that one. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention as well, on the two pins what come out, they are different diameters, so you can't mix them up when you're putting it back together. So we get it all like this, and all I'm going to do is clean all this old manky grease out, give it a little bit of a wipe, clean all the old grease off, and then we put new grease on to do it. So the best thing I've found is we just put a bit of petrol in. Now a bit of a disclaimer here, petrol's highly flammable, so don't do this while you're smoking, and it does choke you a little bit, that's why I'm doing it outside. And also if you splash it in your eyes, then it's not going to be too good for you. So recommend you wear goggles and a respirator mask, but that's health and safety to its max, I suppose. So all I'm doing, I'm just rinsing the things in a little bit of petrol, just getting the petrol around it. Make sure all the surfaces are coated in it. So everywhere where grease has been, that petrol's now touching. And basically this just makes it a lot quicker to clean. And then I'm just going to let this stand for a few minutes. Now one of the things you need to do is these little pins here, there's a tiny little spring, so all it does, it just pulls up, and when you pull it up there's a tiny little spring at the back. I'll just put my finger at the back of it and it stops the spring flying off, although it shouldn't fly off. So already you can see these gloves are starting to wear out, so I'll put another pair on in a second. But that's the tiny spring, I don't know if you can see that. Don't lose that. And there's a little paw, I think is the proper name for it. And we do the same on this one. Make a note of how the spring fits in there, make it easy for when you're putting it back together. And again, we're just going to leave that, give it a good run in petrol, and leave it for a few minutes. Okay, so they've been in there a few minutes now, so all I'm going to do is get the old toothbrush, or if you've had an argument with the wife, you can use hers. And basically, I'm just going to give everything a little bit of a rub, and as you can see, the old grease is coming off straight away. I know I tend to do it. I do the little things first, because then you feel as though you're getting somewhere. And the bearings, just give them a scrubbing. Make sure everywhere is coated, because the petrol's going to evaporate. As you can see, these gloves are now past it, but I'll keep them on just for this one. On the cogs it might take a little bit more scrubbing because the grease tends to harden up on these quite a bit. And basically just getting in all the nooks and crannies. On these outer ones, sometimes I use a cocktail stick if it's really jammed in there, which helps you to get it out. But basically, if you leave it soaking for a few minutes, it should come out okay. So now we're going to do, just wipe all the petrol off, because if you don't do that, when you put the new grease on, if you've still got bits of petrol on here, you're going to dissolve the new grease. And we're just going to do this, go through all the different pieces, clean all those off, make sure they're nice and dry, and then I'm going to do exactly the same procedure as I've just done with this, with all the rest of the bits, soak them in petrol and give them a good clean. And then we'll come back when we're about to put it back together. Okay, so these parts have dried off now, and what I'm going to do is put these little pores back into here. So basically you get this tiny little spring. This is how I do it. You put it in there like so. You see that? And then I hold that part, and then it just basically drops into there. And this spring here, just give it a little squeeze, and there we go, it sits home. And that one's just a little bit of thin oil. Do the same with the other side. And there we go. That's it. If you do push those up, they will come off, so just be careful. And then what we're going to do, grease the inside of here, grease this and where all the parts touch, and then this is basically going to sit back into there. The bearings will go back in here, and then we can reassemble that part. And we do exactly the same with the bigger just going to go and grease this now. Now with the grease, I have got the original Lewmar grease, but that's about run out. So we've bought a generic one, a marine grease. It's similar specs to the other one, so we're going to use that one. Just going to put a bit on the bearings. More not than I wanted, so I'll just give it a rub. And also give a little bit on the top of the plastic housing, because that is going to be in a position where it touches. And all we're going to do is grease the rest of them up, put that back together. Okay, so now it's time to put it back together. So everything's cleaned and now greased, so we're just going to pop it back in. Now the important thing here is you get this little white plastic washer, and this is where it gets a little bit fiddly, because you've got to keep that under there to get it in place. Sometimes also with a screwdriver. This is the fiddliest bit. Sometimes it's easier if you actually push the cog further through and then pull it back on itself. There's a flat side and a round side on there. Your flat side goes towards there. Fiddling until you get the washer in place. There we go. Like I said before, I'm going to grease this part once it's all back together. Small piece. Got the washer under there. Just there. Exactly the same on the other side. It's a bit easier on that one, because you can see there we go. So it's fitting in nicely. Crud off there. This is where the gloves come in handy. Just give that a little wipe of grease around there. So anywhere where there's going to be moving parts, just give it a nice bit of grease. Not too much. So when the plastic retaining clip goes down, that just holds that there. They've already got a little bit of grease on. Some more grease onto here. there. Now if you notice on there's a groove, and that's where the pins go, what go into the side to hold it into there. So if you can't get it in sometimes, you just need to lift it out that little bit to align the pins with the slots. Now I'm cheating here a little bit because the cog I've put back in here, as I showed you, the bearings was broken. I've just been to the chandlers and had to order 2 new ones, or I've ordered 3 new ones, so I'll replace them all, and they won't be here till Monday. So I'm reassembling this just so you can see how it's reassembled, but on Monday when the new bearings come, I'll take that one back out and pull the new bearings in. So I'm not going to grease it all up as I would do, but normally at this point now this would all be greased, the cog on the other side would be greased. Give it a little bit of a working to get grease into all the cogs, and likewise we grease this as well on the inside. I'm just going to put it back on for now so nobody comments saying you forgot to grease it. I've done it deliberately because I'm going to take it back off in a couple of days, but I wanted to put it back together to show you how it works. So once we've got that on, we need to put the little pins back in. So you offer them into the hole, finger in the top of the thing, and you can see it just clips in there. Same the other side. That's how. A little groove on the back of here. Make sure that goes into there. That will sit home. Now if it doesn't go in like it's not doing at the moment, that means that's just come out at the back. There we are, sat home nicely. Get the top. Take the gloves off now. As I said at the beginning, this just wants to be finger tight. And there we go. And the last thing to do is just check it. So there you go. That's how to service a Lewmar 50. This is the ST, I think it's called the Lewmar Ocean ST50. Hope you found it useful. So that's how you service a Lewmar Ocean ST50 winch. As I said before, I have got to put a new bearing in there, but I can't do that until the new one comes on Monday. But it gives you an idea on how to do it. Hope you found it useful and you're servicing yours soon. Cheers.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And please check out our Patron page. See you next time.